The stars stretched endlessly in the darkness, cold and silent. Among them drifted a fleet of broken ships, rusted, battered, and barely holding together. These were the last survivors of the Terrican race, a people once proud, now reduced to nothing but exiles. Inside the largest ship, Commander Valric, a weary Terrican leader, stood in the dim light of the command deck. His deep blue skin had lost its shine, and his silver eyes, once full of hope, now held only sorrow. The fleet had been traveling for months, searching for a place to rest, a place to call home. But every world they approached turned them away. They had once been part of the Galactic Council, a vast alliance of powerful civilizations, but when the Zorak Dominion invaded their homeworld, no one came to help. Instead, the Council stood by, silent, watching as Turrica burned. The survivors had begged for aid, but one by one, the great civilizations refused. "It is not our concern," they had said. "The Terricans are no longer useful." Now the last remnants of their race floated through space, desperate and alone. "Commander," a young officer whispered, breaking Valric's thoughts, "we have picked up a planet nearby. It's called Earth. It belongs to the humans." Valric sighed. He had heard of Earth before, a minor planet, ignored by most of the galaxy. The humans were considered strange, unpredictable. Some said they were weak. Others claimed they were dangerous. But there was no other choice. "Send a message," Valric ordered. "Tell them who we are. Tell them, we are begging for help." On Earth, deep inside the United Earth Federation Command Center, the alert came unexpectedly. Admiral James Carter leaned forward in his chair as the transmission played on the holoscreen. The image of a tired, blue-skinned alien filled the room. His voice trembled with exhaustion. "We are the last of the Terricans. We have no home, no food, no fuel. The galaxy has turned its back on us. We ask you, the humans of Earth, please help us. We have nowhere else to go." Silence followed. The officers in the room exchanged uncertain glances. Humanity had always been cautious about getting involved in galactic politics. The last time they had interfered in alien affairs, it had nearly led to war. But something in Valric's voice struck Carter deep. He had seen that kind of desperation before, in the eyes of human refugees during the old Earth wars. And he knew one thing: humanity did not abandon those in need. "What do we know about the Terricans?" Carter asked. A young intelligence officer, Lieutenant Sarah Reeves, responded. "They were once an advanced race, but after their homeworld was taken, they were left to drift. No one wants to help them because they fear entering the Zorak Dominion. If we take them in, we'll be making powerful enemies." Carter nodded. He understood the risk. But he also knew the United Earth Federation had spent years building up its defenses. Humanity was no longer weak. And if the galaxy thought Earth would turn away helpless refugees out of fear, they were wrong. "Send a reply," Carter said firmly. "Tell them Earth will give them sanctuary." Above Earth, as the Terrican fleet arrived, the sight before them was breathtaking. A blue and green planet, full of life, oceans, and endless land. The Terricans had spent so long in the cold darkness of space that they had forgotten what a living world looked like. Tears welled in Valric's eyes. This is what we lost," he whispered. Their ships, weak and barely functioning, were guided by human vessels toward space stations where medical teams waited. Terricans, exhausted and starving, were given food, medicine, and clean water. For the first time in years, they were safe. But not everyone in the galaxy was pleased. Far away, in the heart of the Zorak Dominion, an emergency meeting was called. The Zorak rulers, massive reptilian beings with piercing red eyes, stared at the reports. "The humans have taken in the Terricans," one of them growled. "They interfere where they should not." The Zorak Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Then we will remind them of their place in this galaxy." As Earth welcomed the Terricans with open arms, an enemy began to move in the shadows. Humanity had made a choice. to stand strong for the Forsaken. And soon, they would face the consequences. The night sky above Earth was alive with movement. Human and Terrican ships floated in orbit, their lights shining like distant stars. The refugee fleet, once on the brink of collapse, had finally found a place to rest. Inside United Earth Federation Command, Admiral James Carter watched the screen as data poured in. Medical reports, ship repair schedules, diplomatic messages. It was a storm of information. But he knew one thing for sure. Humanity had made its choice. The Terricans had been abandoned by the galaxy, but Earth would not turn its back on them. Inside the Terrican flagship, Valrek stood near a window, staring at the planet below. For years, he had only seen darkness, lifeless space, cold metal, and empty hope. But now, beneath him, stretched a world full of life. A world that had chosen to stand with his people when no one else would. Behind him, Commander Talia, his second-in-command, spoke softly. "Do you think we can truly stay here?" Valrek sighed. "I do not know. But I do know this. Humans did not hesitate to help us. They did not ask for anything in return. That alone makes them different from the others." Talia nodded, but worry clouded her face. The Zorak Dominion will not allow this. They see us as nothing more than a problem to be erased, and Earth has just made itself part of that problem. Valrek clenched his fists. "Then we must be ready. We cannot let Earth fight alone." Meanwhile, deep in Zorak space, the Zorak Emperor, a towering reptilian figure with glowing red eyes, sat on his throne of black stone. Around him, his warlords whispered in low, growling voices. "The humans have ignored our warnings," one of them said. "They shelter the Terricans. This is an insult to the Dominion." The Emperor's claws tapped against the stone. "Humans do not understand their place in the galaxy," he said coldly. "It is time we remind them." A massive Zorak war fleet was prepared. Thousands of warships, armed with devastating weapons, were given one order: move toward Earth and issue a demand. Surrender the Terricans, or face the consequences. Back on Earth, the warning arrived. Admiral Carter stood in the Federation Council chamber, watching as the holographic image of a Zorak warlord flickered before them. The creature's sharp teeth glistened under the dim light. "Humans," the warlord hissed, "you have interfered in matters that do not concern you. The Terricans are fugitives. You will hand them over to us immediately." The room was silent. Earth's leaders sat still, their faces unreadable. Carter folded his arms. "And if we refuse?" The Zorak's eyes burned with fury. "Then you will suffer the same fate as the Terricans. Your world will burn." A tense silence followed. Then, President Evelyn Monroe, leader of Earth, spoke. Her voice was steady, unshaken. "Earth does not surrender innocent lives. If you attack us, you will regret it." The Zorak warlord let out a deep, rumbling laugh. "Your planet is small. Your people are weak. You cannot stand against the Dominion." Carter smirked. "Try us." The hologram vanished. The room was quiet. Then Monroe turned to Carter. "How long until they arrive?" "Maybe a week," Carter replied. "Their fleet is massive, but slow. We have time to prepare." She nodded. "Then we prepare. Earth has made its choice. Now, let's show the galaxy what that choice means." Across human space, preparations began. Military fleets were mobilized. Defense stations powered up. Factories worked day and night, building weapons, ships, and shields. Every nation on Earth united under one banner. Humanity would not back down. The Terricans, seeing this, refused to stand by and watch. Even though they had lost much, they still had warriors, engineers, and scientists. Side by side, humans and Terricans worked together to prepare for the coming storm. As the days passed, tension spread across the galaxy. News of Earth's defiance reached every corner of space. Some feared for the humans. Others were inspired. No civilization had ever dared to stand against the Zorak Dominion before. But humanity was different. And soon, the stars would witness a battle that would change history forever. A heavy silence fell over Earth's orbit as the defense fleets positioned themselves. War was coming. Everyone knew it. The Zorak Dominion was on the move, and Earth was their target. Inside United Earth Federation Command, Admiral James Carter stood in the center of the war room, surrounded by officers, strategists, and engineers. The holographic map before them displayed the incoming Zorak fleet, thousands of warships, each larger than the last. "They outnumber us 5-1, said Commander Hayes, his voice tight with worry. Carter nodded. "That's true." He turned toward the room, his gaze steady. "But numbers don't win wars. Tactics, technology, and the will to fight do." The officers straightened. They knew what he meant. The Zorak Dominion had ruled through fear for centuries. But humanity had survived countless wars, hardships, and disasters. They were fighters. "We will make them regret underestimating us," Carter continued. He gestured to the fleet status reports. "Our ships are ready, our defenses are active, and our pilots are prepared. Now, we just wait." On the Terrican flagship, Valrek watched the preparations. He had never seen anything like it. Human ships moved with perfect coordination, their battle formations tight and efficient. Their orbital stations gleamed with powerful weapons, and their soldiers trained without fear. Commander Talia stood beside him, her expression serious. "They don't hesitate. It's as if they fought wars like this before." "They have," Valrek said. He had read Earth's history, wars that had nearly wiped them out, battles that had tested their limits, and yet, each time, they had survived. Now, they fought not for their own survival, but for the Terricans, for a people the rest of the galaxy had abandoned. He turned to Talia. "We cannot just stand here and watch. Our people must fight beside them." She hesitated. "But our fleet is damaged. We lost so many ships." "I know." Valrek's voice was firm. "But if Earth falls, we fall. We must show them we are worth protecting." Talia saluted. "I will tell the others." Deep in space, the Zorak fleet approached. The Zorak High Warlord, Sarkin, sat in the command throne of his massive dreadnought. His yellow eyes gleamed as he watched the sensor reports. Earth's defenses were strong, but not strong enough to stop them. "They resist," his second-in-command growled. "Foolish." Sarkin smirked. "They are humans. A young race, full of pride. They think they can protect the weak." His claws tapped against the armrest. "They will learn their mistakes soon." The fleet continued forward, engines burning bright. Soon, they would arrive at Earth. And then, they would make the humans pay. Back on Earth, the final hours before battle arrived. Across the world, cities prepared for the worst. Evacuation drills moved civilians to safety, bunkers filled with supplies. Families held each other close, knowing that when the battle started, the fate of their world would be decided. In a military hangar, Captain Elias Walker checked his fighter systems. His squadron stood nearby, each pilot focused and ready. A Terrican pilot approached him. "Human," she said, "I wish to fight with you." Elias studied her. She was young but determined. Behind her stood other Terricans, mechanics, engineers, and warriors, all willing to join the battle. He smiled. "Then let's make sure you have a ship." Side by side, humans and Terricans worked together, preparing for the battle that would decide everything. Then the alert sounded. A red light flashed across every screen. The warning message was simple. "Incoming hostile fleet. Engagement imminent." Admiral Carter stepped onto the bridge of the Earth flagship UES Valor. His heart pounded, but his voice was calm as he gave the order. "Bring up the defense grid. Prepare for battle." In orbit, human warships shifted into position. Fighters launched from carriers. Every ship, every soldier, every pilot stood ready. And then, on the far edge of the system, the Zorak fleet appeared. Massive, unstoppable, relentless. The first battle of Earth's greatest war was about to begin. The vast emptiness of space was suddenly alive with movement. The Zorak fleet had arrived. Their warships, dark and metallic, stretched across the stars like a storm ready to consume everything in its path. At the center of their formation, the massive Zorak dreadnought loomed, its energy cannons already charging. On Earth's side, the human fleet stood ready. Sleek battleships, fast-moving cruisers, and squadrons of fighters formed a tight defensive wall around the planet. Orbital defense platforms adjusted their massive turrets, locking onto enemy targets. On board the UES Valor, Admiral James Carter watched the approaching enemy fleet. His hands rested firmly behind his back. He had expected them. He was ready. "Enemy fleet in range, sir," a tactical officer called out. Carter nodded. "Hold position. Let them come to us." The Zorak ships advanced, their engines glowing a deep red. Then, without warning, they fired. Bright streaks of energy cut through space. Plasma bolts, ion beams, and railgun rounds tore through the void, lighting up the battlefield. The battle for Earth had begun. In the skies above Earth, Captain Elias Walker gripped the controls of his fighter as his squadron launched from the carrier. His HUD displayed a wave of enemy interceptors approaching at high speed. "All wings, form up," he ordered over the comm. His squadron, made of both human and Terrican pilots, adjusted their formation. It was the first time they fought together. But in this moment, they were one. The enemy fighters rushed in, firing green plasma rounds. Elias jerked his controls, dodging the blasts, then fired back. His laser cannons tore through a Zorak fighter, sending it spiraling into space. Around him, the sky became a deadly dance of fire and steel. Terrican pilot Lieutenant Celia spoke over the comm, her voice calm despite the chaos. "Their ships are faster, but ours are more maneuverable. Stay on their tails." Elias grinned. "Copy that." He twisted his ship and barrel roll through the enemy line, blasting another Zorak fighter out of the sky. But the battle was far from over. On the Terrican flagship, Valrek stood on the bridge, his eyes locked on the battle outside. Earth's forces were holding strong, but for how long? Talia stood beside him. "We need to do something. Our ships can still fight." Valrek exhaled sharply. The Terrican fleet was damaged, but she was right. If they only watched from the sidelines, Earth could fall, and with it, their last hope. He turned to his officers. "Ready all operational ships. We fight alongside them." One by one, Terrican ships, battered but determined, joined the human fleet. The UES Valor fights back. Admiral Carter watched as the battle raged on. His fleet had taken hits, but they were still fighting. They had to hold. A warning alarm flashed red. "Sir," an officer shouted, "the enemy dreadnought is charging its main cannon." Carter's jaw tightened. If that cannon fired, it could wipe out an entire battleship. "Target their weapon systems. Fire everything we have." Earth's warships unleashed a massive barrage of missiles and laser fire. The Zorak dreadnought shook under the impact, its shields flaring. But the cannon continued charging. Carter grabbed the comm. "All available fighters, focus on disabling that weapon." A desperate attack. Elias heard the order. He looked at his HUD. The dreadnought's weapon was nearly ready. "Squadron, on me," he commanded. Celia and the other fighters followed. They weaved through enemy fire, dodging plasma blasts, and counterattacking whenever possible. The cannon's glow grew brighter. Time was running out. Elias gritted his teeth. There was only one way. "I'm taking the shot," he said. He accelerated straight toward the dreadnought, pushing his ship past safe limits. Locking onto the weapon's core, he fired a direct missile. The missile hit its mark. A blinding explosion erupted from the side of the dreadnought. The cannon's energy buildup overloaded, and the entire weapon detonated. The force sent Elias's fighter spinning out of control. His comm crackled. "Elias, pull up." Celia shouted. Elias fought with the controls. His ship tumbled downward, heading toward the surface of Earth. The last thing he saw before blacking out was blue sky rushing toward him. The battle is not over. The destruction of the dreadnought's cannon sent a shockwave through the battlefield. On the Zorak command ship, High Warlord Xarkin stood, his claws gripping the armrest. His plan had failed. He underestimated humanity's courage. Snarling, he slammed his fist on the console. Retreat, but this is not over. The remaining Zorak ships began to pull back. On board the UES Valor, Admiral Carter exhaled. They had won the first battle. But Earth had suffered losses, and Elias Walker, his fate remained unknown. The skies above Earth were finally clearing. The once massive Zorak fleet, which had darkened the stars, was retreating. Human and Terrican forces had stood strong, and against all odds, they had won this battle. But the victory had a cost. Among the wreckage of the battlefield, one ship fell toward the planet's surface, a lone fighter spiraling out of control. Captain Elias Walker's fighter. A crash landing. The wind roared as Elias's fighter broke through the clouds, flames trailing behind it. He struggled to regain control, but the ship's systems were failing. The impact was inevitable. With one last desperate attempt, he pulled the emergency lever. The cockpit ejected, and he was launched into the air. His parachute deployed, slowing his fall. Below him stretched a vast forest, its green canopy rushing up to meet him. Crash! Elias hit the ground hard. His body ached all over, but he was alive. The wreckage of his ship smoldered nearby, half buried in the dirt. Sparks flew from its broken frame, and thick smoke curled into the sky. He groaned, pushing himself up slowly. His head pounded, but his training took over. He checked his comm. Nothing. No signal. No way to contact his team. He was stranded, back in orbit, searching for a hero. On board the UES Valor, Admiral Carter stared at the battle reports. The enemy was gone, but they had lost many pilots. Then came the message from Lieutenant Celia. Sir, Elias's fighter was hit. He went down over the northern continent. We have to find him. Carter clenched his fist. Walker was one of their best pilots. He couldn't be gone. Send search teams, he ordered. We're bringing him home. Terrican leader Valrek stepped forward. My people will assist. Elias saved us all. We will not leave him behind. Celia, standing beside them, nodded. She wasn't going to give up. Survival in the wild. Elias moved through the dense forest, his pilot suit torn, his body bruised. He needed to find shelter, food, and most importantly, a way to signal for help. The jungle was alive with strange sounds. Alien birds screeched in the distance, and somewhere nearby, water rushed over rocks. He reached into his survival pack, pulling out a small ration bar. It wasn't much, but it would keep him going. As he ate, he heard a rustling in the bushes. Elias froze. Something was watching him. He reached for his sidearm, moving slowly. Then, from the shadows, a figure stepped forward. It was not human. A mysterious encounter. The figure was tall, covered in dark blue scales, with glowing green eyes. It wore a simple robe, its hands raised in peace. Elias remained cautious. Who are you? The creature studied him, then spoke in broken galactic common. You, not enemy. You fall from sky. Elias nodded. Yeah, my ship crashed. The alien pointed to the wreckage. Fire metal. Very bad. Zorak comes soon. Must leave. Elias's heart skipped a beat. The Zorak were coming. Why? I thought they retreated. The alien shook its head. They want. Secret. Hidden here. You in danger. Elias tensed. The Zorak were after something. And now he was caught in the middle of it. He had to get out of here. Fast. The hunt begins. Far above, in the darkness of space, A Zorak warship remained hidden. High Warlord Sarkhan watched the surface of Earth on his command screen. His eyes glowed with rage. The humans may have won this battle, but they do not know what they protect. He turned to his officers. Deploy search teams. Bring me the human pilot alive. Below, in the thick forests, Elias and his strange new ally had no idea that the hunt had already begun. Elias felt his heart race. The alien before him had just warned him. The Zorak were coming. But why? What secret was hidden here? The mysterious being, tall and covered in dark blue scales, gestured for Elias to follow. No time. Must leave now. Elias hesitated. He was injured, stranded, and his only chance of survival was trusting this stranger. He took a deep breath and nodded. Lead the way. With silent steps, the alien moved deeper into the dense jungle, and Elias followed, unaware that danger was already closing in. The Zorak arrive. Far above the planet, a Zorak warship hovered like a predator watching its prey. Warlord Sarkhan stood at the command deck, his sharp eyes locked on the planet below. His soldiers waited, their weapons ready. Begin the search, he ordered. Find the human, and eliminate anyone who stands in our way. A squad of black-armored Zorak soldiers descended in drop pods, roaring through the atmosphere. Their mission was simple: capture Elias Walker and uncover the secret Earth unknowingly protected. A hidden place. Elias moved carefully behind his guide, stepping over thick roots and ducking under low branches. His body ached from the crash, but he pushed forward. After a long walk, they arrived at a cave entrance, hidden behind vines. The alien turned to him, green eyes glowing faintly. Safe here, but not for long. Elias looked around confused. What is this place? Instead of answering, the alien pressed a hand against the stone wall. A soft humming sound filled the air. Then, the ground trembled. Elias watched in shock as the wall slid open, revealing a hidden tunnel leading underground. Come, the alien said. Must show you. Elias took a deep breath and stepped inside. The forgotten legacy. The tunnel was old, its walls covered in ancient carvings. The deeper they went, the brighter the strange markings began to glow. Elias ran his fingers over the symbols. What is this place? The alien turned to him. Old world. Before Zorak. Before war. This place holds knowledge. Power. Elias frowned. Power. What kind of power? The alien hesitated, then led him to a large chamber. At the center stood a massive floating crystal, glowing with golden light. It pulsed, as if alive. Elias felt a strange pull toward it, his skin tingling. What is this? The alien's voice was calm but serious. This is why the Zorak come. They seek this, but they must never have it. Elias stared. Whatever this crystal was, it was important. And now, the Zorak were hunting him because of it. The Zorak attack. Above ground, the jungle was no longer peaceful. Zorak soldiers landed, moving like shadows through the trees. One of them scanned the ground with a tracking device. A red light blinked. The human is near. The squad leader growled. Find him. Now. They moved swiftly, their footsteps silent. Inside the cave, Elias suddenly felt the ground shudder. His guide's eyes widened. They come. Elias gripped his weapon tightly. They had to move. Fast. A desperate escape. The alien led Elias through a hidden passage, but the Zorak were close behind. Lasers blasted through the air, hitting the walls, sending sparks flying. Elias ducked and returned fire, taking down one of the soldiers, but more were coming. His guide pressed a hidden switch, and suddenly, part of the cave collapsed behind them, sealing the passage. Elias panted. That won't hold them forever. The alien nodded. No, but buys time. Elias turned toward the glowing crystal. If the Zorak wanted this so badly, then it must be truly dangerous in their hands. We can't let them have it. Elias said firmly. "We have to get this out of here." The alien hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, but only one way." Elias narrowed his eyes. "What do you mean?" The alien touched the crystal, and suddenly, a wave of energy pulsed through the chamber. Elias stumbled back, his vision blurring. Images flashed in his mind. Stars, battles, ancient warriors protecting this place. Then, he heard a voice. Only a chosen warrior can wield the crystal's power. Elias's heart pounded. Was it calling to him? The alien looked at him, as if reading his thoughts. "You are chosen." Elias swallowed hard. This was bigger than just survival. This was a mission. And now it was his mission. The chamber trembled as the Zorak forces blasted their way through the sealed tunnel. Dust and debris fell from the ceiling, and Elias knew it was only a matter of time before they broke in. He turned toward the alien beside him, the guardian of this ancient place. His green eyes glowed softly in the dim light. "You said the crystal chose me," Elias said, his voice steady. "But why?" The alien hesitated. Then he placed a three-fingered hand on the glowing crystal. It pulsed once, and a wave of energy filled the air. "This is not just a weapon," the alien said. "It is a key that can either save or destroy." Elias stepped forward, feeling the power hum beneath his skin. He had never believed in fate, but now he could feel something awakening inside him. The Zorak were coming, and Earth stood alone against them. But if this power could turn the tide, he had to try. The Zorak break through. A deafening explosion shook the ground. The sealed tunnel gave way, and Zorak soldiers stormed into the chamber, their black armor gleaming under the golden light of the crystal. Their leader, Warlord Sarkin, stepped forward, his scared face twisted into a smirk. "At last," he said. His voice echoed through the cavern. "The power of the ancients will belong to the Zorak." Elias stepped in front of the crystal, his heart pounding. "You're not taking it," he said firmly. Sarkin chuckled. "A human stands in my way. Foolish." He raised his hand, and his soldiers took aim. The crystal awakens. Before the Zorak could fire, the crystal flared with blinding light. A shockwave pulsed outward, knocking everyone to the ground. Elias felt energy surge into his body. His vision blurred as ancient knowledge flooded his mind. Memories of warriors long past, of civilizations that had risen and fallen because of this power. He understood now. The crystal wasn't just a weapon. It was a guardian force, and now it had chosen him. Elias clenched his fists. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was something more. Earth's answer. Sarkin growled, pushing himself to his feet. Enough of this. He raised his weapon, but before he could fire, Elias moved, faster than thought, faster than any human should have been able to. Golden energy surrounded him, flowing like armor. Sarkin's eyes widened. Impossible. Elias didn't wait. He launched forward, a streak of golden light, and struck the warlord with a single punch. The impact sent Sarkin flying backward, crashing into his soldiers. The Zorak panicked. They had faced many enemies before, but never anything like this. Elias turned toward them, his eyes glowing with the crystal's power. "This is Earth's strength," he said. "We protect those in need. And we don't back down." The Zorak hesitated. Fear crept into their eyes. They had come expecting an easy victory. Instead, they had awakened something unstoppable. The battle ends. Realizing the battle was lost, Sarkin snarled and signaled his remaining soldiers. Retreat. The Zorak soldiers activated their teleporters, vanishing in flashes of blue light. Their warship above quickly disengaged, fleeing back into deep space. Elias watched them go, breathing heavily. The power within him was fading now, returning to the crystal. He had won. But the war was far from over. A new beginning. The alien guardian stepped beside him, watching the sky. "They will come again." Elias nodded. He knew that. But now, Earth had a weapon the Zorak feared. And more than that, a reason to fight. He turned toward the crystal. It had given him strength, but he knew it wasn't meant to be misused. "This stays here," he said. "Hidden. Protected." The alien nodded. "You are its protector now." Elias took a deep breath. He had never asked for this. But now he had a purpose greater than himself. The galaxy had cast aside this alien race. The Zorak had tried to conquer Earth, but humanity had stood strong. And as long as Elias drew breath, Earth would never fall.